We've got a lot of interesting things to do today. And when I thought about the idea of reset, it's like, what are you going to do to reset? First thing is taking a step back and really just taking a deep breath and thinking about how can I incorporate a little bit more self-care to rest and recuperate. Because when you're under chronic stress, whether it's from being a parent of a child who has a lot of trauma or just living in Silicon Valley, it's a very stressful environment that we live in, the pace in this culture that we're living in. And so figuring out how to incorporate more self-care is really good for all of us. The other thing is the T word, trauma. There's all sorts of what people out in the world will describe as trauma. Most of the books that you're going to read on trauma are geared toward event-centric trauma, which is there was a thing that happened, right? And there are definitely things that happen to children with developmental trauma. But partly what happens is it's the way that their nervous system gets set up to do stress, right? And it's our history, it's our ancestors' history that gets passed down through genes, but then also through the environment that we're in, and how our nervous system gets dysregulated. And everybody in this room, including me, has some dysregulation in their nervous system. So I really like that concept because it just changes the wording, nervous system dysregulation. And guess what? We all have it. So it levels the playing field. And I work on mine, and I've made a lot of progress with it, so I can kind of tell you, in a lot of cases, what my experience has been of coming to a more regulated system. Right? So we help each other along. So when we reset, we want to fill up the stores. We want to reconnect with each other, with our loved ones. And play is really one of the best things for resetting. Although when your stress gets to a certain level, play seems like work sometimes. The next thing we're going to focus on today is learning some new things. And in the reset world, it's kind of like, all right, let me take a step back from what I'm doing and see if I can look at these through slightly different eyes and then see what I want to incorporate in. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to play, we're going to learn, we're going to expand our toolkit, and we're going to support each other, hopefully, along the way. So I actually did work at CHAC with Veronica for many years. That's where I did my traineeship, but I am a licensed marriage and family therapist in private practice in Mountain View on San Antonio Road. Part of that time at CHAC, I was working on their First 5 program, so I had a lot of experience working with families in the 0 to 5 population, which was a good place for me to be. So during that time, I counseled in schools, 2 years at elementary and 3 years in a high school. And then I've actually had 4 years of mentoring with this person called Steve Terrell, who is out of Austin, Texas, and specializes in working with families who have adopted children, particularly from Russia. And he actually has 2 adopted boys. So I'm getting like weekly, consistent feedback about that. And then teaching yoga. So that's where some of my relaxation support comes in. But now what I'd really like to do is find out more about you. And I think just in the interest of getting as much information as I can that will kind of tell me about where your children's nervous systems are at, I came up with just a few questions. And I put out pens, and this is going to be kind of a get up and down sort of day. So if getting up and down is difficult for you, perhaps you can recruit a neighbor, or we can get somebody to help you with the questions up. So 5 questions here. One is just wondering about the age of your child, both at adoption or first-time fostering, and their current age. So the first time they went into the foster care system. What helps? So we want to find out what kind of supports do you have going in the group. It might be that you have a really good, strong partner who's really supportive, or your church, whatever it is. Good therapist.
What helps them or what helps us?
What helps everybody? Mostly it's for you. So you're thinking about bolstering the parent to support the child. how challenging are things with your child right now? So is it like in the really difficult zone, or are you in a good place right now? Just kind of put a little mark there so I can kind of see because since I came to the support group, I've worked with a few of the members of the group and have really seen the spectrum of how challenges can show up. So under stress, is your child more likely to withdraw and shut down, to have big loud outbursts, or to do some of both? So that'll tell me something about their nervous system. And also wondering about what kind of medical or health challenges. So if you don't want to share that information, you definitely don't have to, but it can kind of move the conversation along to the fact that trauma impacts your health. You guys know about the Kaiser ACE study, right? Okay, so Kaiser did this really big study where they asked 10 questions about people's abuse history, and then they correlated it with their medical records and found a really obvious connection to really big and difficult health problems, including heart problems, cancers, everything you can imagine. Now, obviously, they didn't include anything about adoption, which we know is a trauma, but that wasn't included on there. So I think if they included that, we would probably see, at a minimum, you're going to probably, a lot of your children have digestive problems. So I'll be curious. All right, so let's go ahead. If you would like, you can grab a pen and go and